and welcome back to My House Book Club, where we talk about a different book or a series and hopefully get encouraged to keep on reading. My name is Maya, and today we will take a look at Emma. We will also do a little tour of my grandparents' house and garden in Japan. I can't show you everything, but it's just a little tour, a little taste of what it's like there. I was reading Emma in Japan, so I thought, okay, why not combine these two things? And hopefully, I can share with you where I think my love for books come from. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome to Japan. I want to introduce you to my grandparents' house in Japan that is 300 years old, with some additions to it, of course, as time has passed. Now, this sunshine here is covering my grandfather's name, which is engraved in the stone here. You can see this sometimes in Japan. We will soon go down a path that leads to the house, and you might spot Charlie too. So, a story about this path. My mom told me that when she was a child, the sides of this path would be covered in white small flowers, and she would be so excited to come home every day. Until one day somebody had cut all the flowers and it made her so sad. I have to say though, even without the flowers, this path looks pretty beautiful to me. Oh, this is an old bathroom, as old as the house. Those stories do not go so well together, but oh well. Anyway, here we go down the path. On the left here, you can soon see a cage. This is for the raccoons that lived in or in the roof. Here it is. Oh, so cute. But yeah, they were damaging the house, so they had to be freed elsewhere. They are back though, and I will tell you more about that later. So here at the entrance, you can see on the wall there's a crack that came from a major earthquake. I'm surprised this old house is still standing, but yeah. Oh, my grandparents are rice farmers, so they would measure the rice here. Soon you can see a crack on the floor that also came from the earthquake. Now, this floor is also super old, and the material just stains very easily. And there are spider webs and dust because it's old, but I think it's still very beautiful and interesting. Now, typical Japanese sliding doors. On the roof here, you can see poles that are supporting the roof and the building. These are taken from a whole tree trunk. So look at how long that is. You don't see this very much in Japan. It's very old, very traditional. So this is also from the earthquake. The roof cracked. About the roof, soon I will show you. There's a hole in the roof. The roof is made out of straw, as you can see. You don't see that either that much anymore. It's very old and traditional, and the raccoons live there. So at night, you can hear them. There's a couple of them, and they're just working on something always. These are raccoon paw stains. They came in with wet paws, and my mom told me that you could see the little fingers or whatever before, and now they're a bit faded. But anyway, there is proof. Now, about my grandparents, from raccoons to grandparents, my grandfather used to be a teacher, and he would always tell me that, Maya, you have to be a teacher too, which I think is pretty sweet and funny. Here you can see steep stairs. He would live upstairs and he would walk these up until 82 years old, and soon you can hear a sound that would let me know that my grandfather is coming down. And my grandmother, she was a rice farmer. Farming was her life. So here you can see her tractor. She was known in the village as the 80-year-old grandmother who still drives a tractor. Look at how cute she is. Anyway, here are some old doors too, and the traditional amado. So you would have to close this every night. Charlie said that this reminds him of the movie Totoro. And yeah, just imagine waking up to this view every morning, especially in the summer. It's so beautiful. I wish I could show you that. And yes, this is an old Japanese post box. Now about our roof. Soon you can see a silver colored roof, or it is silver roof, and it has holes in it because it hailed last year, but you don't see that often either. It's put on top of the straw roof, and postmen would have trouble finding our home always because there's so many houses here, and everybody would just tell them, just look for the silver roof and you can find it. So, as I told earlier, my grandfather was a teacher and he loved reading books. And I like to think that even though we are from a different generation and lived completely different lives, the things we love to do are still passed down, and I want to honor that tradition if one can say so. I have to end on rice fields, even though March is not the ideal time to film, but this was like my grandmother's second home, and it feels very nostalgic every time I see them, and just looking at this footage makes me miss Japan. Hope you enjoyed this little tour, and it's time to get back to my home in Switzerland. So, reading Emma took me a whole month, unfortunately, not because of this book, just because I was traveling in Japan for almost a month and I got sick twice. But when I wasn't sick, I was reading it everywhere. I was reading it in the airplane, I was reading it in line. I was in line for okonomiyaki for 2 hours. So, those 2 hours I just read Emma. And isn't it crazy how Japanese people love to line up for things? I feel like I learned it too, and now lining up is almost half the fun. Now, a little introduction of the book before I go into the review. Emma was written by an English author called Jane Austen and was first published in 1815. It tells a story about a young woman called Emma, that's right, who is wise, also a little bit spoiled, and she takes on the role of Cupid secretly, and by doing so, she gets herself into trouble. This book fits into so many genres. It's a romance, it has comedy in it too, and I realized while I was reading it, a lot of the time the story concentrated on Emma's growth and how through that she learns to understand love. First, I will shortly do a non-spoiler review, and then I will give a warning when we go more into details with spoilers. Please feel free to just listen if you want. I'm going to be looking at my notes because my memory isn't working so well. The best way I can describe my reading experience is the word pleasant. I didn't find a super deep emotional connection to this book, but I really enjoyed it and it wasn't hard to read at all. I will admit it took me a while to start liking the character of Emma, like half the book. Not in a bad way, not like it didn't make me want to stop reading or anything like that. I guess looking back, I was assuming that the book wanted me to think that Emma was always right, when in fact, the story was giving space for her to grow. So that was my mistake, and I read a lot of people actually liked Emma's character from the beginning. I also read that Jane Austen intended her to be unlikable, but it's interesting how she managed to do it without annoying the reader. I ended up really liking the character of Emma, and after reading this book, I'm left feeling refreshed and very happy with how the plot ended in multiple aspects. Of course, I have to mention Jane Austen's sarcasm and humor, which make this book so enjoyable. It's funny how when I was younger and I read Jane Austen, I didn't realize how funny her books were, but now I think they're hilarious. So now we will go into detail with spoilers. If I go in the order of how my thoughts formed while reading, I will have to start with how Emma seems bored at the beginning. or more so that she has skills that she doesn't have control, discipline, or ways to use. I think that's probably why she took Harriet under her wing. I think it's interesting how later on, Mrs. Elton takes Jane Fairfax under her wing, and that seems inappropriate. And also then later how Emma realizes she did Harriet wrong by taking care of her. Now, although Harriet appreciates it, it makes her overly confident and wasn't necessarily good for her. Perhaps the similarities in these two different relationships strengthen the idea that Emma should have befriended Jane from the beginning, which she also realizes, and it kind of, maybe these two relationships work as a parable. While Emma had good intentions towards Harriet, she could have ended up making her against her own social class. Another relationship that I found interesting was between Emma and her father, Mr. Woodhouse. Now, I wondered throughout whether his constant worry is what made Emma so socially skilled. And also just Emma's character in general, I feel like it was such a head scratcher. She was wise, caring, and proud, but according to Mr. Knightley, she wasn't strong enough to finish a task or do something hard. She says she doesn't need action and describes how she has plenty of things to do, but at the same time she seems bored. She was a little judgmental too, but not so firm in her own opinion that it couldn't be influenced. Now, two things are very clear though. Firstly, she does not understand her own heart yet. Within one thinking session, she starts off with an opinion that changes a couple pages later. In my opinion, this shows her ability to grow and recognize her own faults. I love to see how Emma's mistakes made her go into herself and look at who she is and brought out the good and true intentions of her heart. Secondly, she doesn't understand romantic love fully. Despite saying that she will never marry, she then thinks that if she falls in love, she might marry after all. But then when she realizes that she is in love with Mr. Knightley, she thinks she couldn't marry him even if he would ask. And then when he does ask, she says yes. It is revealed towards the end that she has always loved Mr. Knightley without knowing it, and I think this is very true. Emma values his opinion more than anyone else's, although she might rebel a little bit, and wants to be on good terms with him. His presence and approval bring her joy throughout the book. Who else could have suited Emma than Mr. Knightley? Her character was such a high standard one that only someone she can look up to could have been worthy of it. And I think this goes the other way around too. I actually loved all the scenes where Mr. Knightley would correct Emma's behavior. I think it showed deep caring and love because he knew Emma's true character and knew she was better than that. I was amazed at how instead of concentrating on Emma's mistakes, Mr. Knightley tells Emma in admiration that she took his correction in a way that no other woman in England could have done. There was a line in the beginning of the book that really stayed in my mind. Although not talking about Emma, it says, quote unquote, "The pleasantest proof of its being a great deal better to choose than to be chosen, to excite gratitude than to feel it." So if I say it simply, it's better to choose than to be chosen, and it's better to make someone feel grateful than to feel it yourself. I wonder if this idea carried to one of my favorite scenes where Emma chooses to dance with Mr. Knightley. The joy he must have felt. I have to mention one more relationship that brought me so much joy, and that is between Emma and Frank Churchill. I am so pleased that they ended up being friends despite everything that happened, because I could tell that Emma really enjoyed being with him and cared for him. I think it was so sweet when Frank was so boyishly excited to describe his love towards Jane. And I think this kind of openness towards Emma showed true friendship from his side too. One question I kept wondering about, but apparently was answered, but I totally missed it, was why did Frank and Jane hide their engagement? So I read online afterwards that apparently it was Mrs. Churchill. It makes sense, but somehow I wish that it would have been explained in the book better. It could be that my memory just skipped that part. Another question I had is why did Jane not resist Mrs. Elton's care even though it was so tiring for her? Now I was thinking maybe it's just because how she is, like not wanting to say her opinion very clearly, but if you have an answer, please let me know. Talking about Mrs. Elton, I thought it was hilarious that she wasn't invited to the wedding because she was probably assuming that she would be. And I think it ended the book on a very funny note. I hope I don't sound very mean by saying that, but that was funny. If I had something I didn't like about the book, I think it would be the fact that Harriet had always loved Robert Martin. I personally didn't think there was much proof to it, and with Emma having the same experience with Mr. Knightley, I think it was a bit too much. Another thing that was weird was that Mr. Knightley said that he had loved Emma ever since she was 13. So, maybe it was a bit different at the time, or maybe it means a different kind of love, like just deep caring. Let's go with that. Yeah. So this was my little review slash analysis of Emma. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening till the end. I think this was perfect read for my travels. It was refreshing, light, funny, not too deep or disturbing. I definitely recommend you read it, and I'm so excited to read other Jane Austen books. I have a few left. I'm so excited to reread Pride and Prejudice because I used to love it when I was younger, but now I don't remember how it was, so let's see if I still love it. I think I will. Please let me know if you enjoyed this mix of contents or do you just like pure book reviews. Let me know. Also, I will be announcing tomorrow which book I'm reading next on Instagram. So, thank you so much for watching. Until the next adventure. It's... Oh. 帰り今ビデオ作ってた。ごめん。Can I...
ordered for you.
Ordered? What did you order?
Chinese food.
Oh, Chinese food. We're eating Chinese food.